Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Sonic Yoda from SEGADriven.com, and welcome back to our Sonic Hacking Contest 2019 coverage. In this episode we're taking a look at Return of Metal by Metal Shadow Productions. This is another Sonic Mania mod, and I've got to say, unfortunately, that this has some serious problems. So, the mod contains 12 playable acts. They're all sort of featuring new objects, enemies, bosses, graphics, music, total conversion basically, really trying to go, you know, as heavy with the conversion as possible, so it really does look, you know, like a different thing, and it isn't drawing too much from existing Sonic Mania assets. So that's kind of cool, it's got to be said. Unfortunately, for one, I think a lot of the original looking stages aren't particularly pretty, it's got to be said. I think an awful lot of the graphics are quite harsh on the eyes, lots of repeating patterns that just not very nice to look at when they're, you know, so heavily repeated. I think you need to show some variety in your tile sets to really make that make them pop. You know, unfortunately, these just don't have that. It's such a shame because, you know, there's an awful lot of effort has gone into adding custom graphics to this, but unfortunately, I just don't think they're a good fit at the moment. Yeah, there's this null space stage in particular is very harsh to look at. Like, the strobing effect is not nice to look at. Really, like, lots of heavy repeating patterns throughout the entire stage. It's just not pretty, lads. I'm very, very sorry. The other problem I have with it is the level design is particularly chonky as well. It feels very... I don't know how to describe this other than it's like pieced together with lots of square tiles. There's not enough curvature, not enough slopes and ramps and things like that to the environment. It feels like you're often jumping around very sort of stilted bunches of blocks, you know, that they're sort of rectangles or squares, lots of that sort of shape repeated throughout the stages, and it just doesn't make for a good Sonic stage, unfortunately. You need more curvature, you need more slopes and ramps for you to build momentum. That's kind of the whole point of Sonic, lads. And yeah, this really doesn't hit that, unfortunately. I encountered quite a few bugs. There was a pipe that I just sent me through the entire geometry of the stage, and I fell out the bottom but didn't die, so I had to restart. That wasn't great. It just feels a bit janky in places. It's very sort of slapped together from existing bits of pieces, but given a fresh lick of paint. That's the main feeling I get from this, unfortunately. There are some positives. I think the real takeaway from this demo of Return of Metal in particular is the Wing Fortress stage is really well done. They've used Flying Battery from Sonic Mania as the basis for this one, so you often notice an awful lot of the same sort of gimmicks from that stage. But that's a good fit for Wing Fortress because those are very similar to what you've experienced in Wing Fortress anyway. The stage itself is quite heavily remixed, but a lot of the elements of this stage do remind you of the original Sonic 2 layout, and I really enjoyed that, to be honest with you. It feels like what you get from Sonic Mania. You know, it's got the familiarity of the original stage, but then some tweaks and remix bits that just make it feel a little bit more fresh. And yeah, I thought that was a really good take on Wing Fortress, to be honest with you. Even the boss that they've used as well, like that sort of garbage compactor boss from Flying Battery and Sonic Mania, is a good fit, because again, it's very similar to one of the bosses in Wing Fortress. So yeah, I think that was a really, really good fit, and probably the highlight of this entire demo. If you're going to play any part of it, I'd play the Wing Fortress stage, because yeah, that really impressed me the most. But unfortunately, too much of this, like I say, the stage design isn't too hot. It's very stop-start, doesn't feel like it flows very well because of the lack of curvature in the stages. And yeah, it's not a pretty thing to look at an awful lot of the time. Like I say, lots of repeating patterns, very harsh on the eyes. It's not something you'd want to look at for too long because, yeah, it's hard to look at, it's got to be said. A real shame that, unfortunately. These are all things that obviously can be improved in a future release. Yeah, this needs more time in the oven. Think about Sonic stage design, think about that payoff between platforming and speed, and hopefully the redesigned stages in the next release can be a lot better. And yeah, just if you're going to go for custom graphics, think think of how harsh it is to look at a repeating pattern that's so small and repeated so heavily. It's not nice on the eyes. You really need to mix it up a bit and just make the patterns a bit larger so that they're not so heavily repeated. I think that could be a real improvement on the next release. So fingers crossed this does make it to a next release. I'd be very interested to see where it can go from here, because there is some potential in here. I think, like I say, the Wing Fortress stage does showcase a pretty solid bit of level design and a good idea of what makes Sonic good. So more of that, please, for the next time.